Hello, ni hao. Welcome to Mandarin Mama Chitchat by Mandarin Together, where two Taiwanese moms, Trista and Yao Yao, share their experiences in raising bilingual children, exploring identity, code switching, and embracing the joys and challenges of bilingual parenting. Come along with us on this exciting journey.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Mandarin Mama Chitchat. There are a million things you can do, and you choose to spend time with us. We are so grateful you are here with us. And today we have Samantha. She is the founder of Joeydolls. Joeydolls are not your typical doll. Joy's doll represents Asian and many different Asian culture. She is from Malaysia, but she moved to Australia when she was 8 months old. Growing up, like many of us in the Asian family, she was expected to be quiet, right? Be respectful as a girl, not to have conflict and go be an accountant, go be a lawyer, go be a doctor, such and such. But during pandemic, she started a dream. She wanted to play dolls with her daughter, but then she see a big gap in the market. She doesn't really see much of dolls that represent Asian, so that's why she started Joy Dolls. Samantha is such a force. We had such a wonderful, inspiring conversation. She inspired me so much. She talks really soft and she is very sweet and gentle. But I'm telling you, she is a big, powerful force and she's definitely making big impact right now to many, many, many little girls out there. Ooh, this conversation was so interesting because we talked about race, different color, how as an Asian girl like me, maybe you and Samantha, Tristan, we grow up in the Western world. How is it like for us, little girl, grow up in the Western world, seeing the beauty standard? Or even growing up in Taiwan for myself, a beauty standard is if you have a fair skin, if you are white, if you have a bigger eyes, if you have fair skin, it means you're pretty, right? So, I mean, back in the days, I do not have a Joy doll in my life. All I see is Barbie dolls, and all have blue eyes, really big eyes, and blonde hair, and that doesn't really represent me at all. So, I mean, this just our conversation got really deep, which I love, and I hope this conversation really inspired you. If this episode inspired you, would you please share this episode with one friend? Help us to empower and encourage more mothers and women out there. Let's spread this community and support each other. And make sure you subscribe to our podcast because every Tuesday we will bring on an amazing, inspiring guest. And if you want to support us, please make sure you leave a review because it will mean so much to us and keep us going. Okay, let's welcome Samantha. Hi, Samantha. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love all your dolls. And can you take us back, like where you're from, like your background, and how did you start with Joy Doll?
Yeah, I don't know how far you want me to go back, but I was born in Malaysia and then I grew up in Australia, actually. I moved to Australia when I was 8 months old, so I was pretty much a baby, grew up in Australia. And then it wasn't until I think I started working after university for about a year or two, and then I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna pick up and like quit my job and like just move over to Canada by myself. And like I just wanted like a completely different change. Like I didn't know what it was.
Why
And
did you pick
I
Canada? That's
oh
kind of
yes,
random.
yeah, yeah, good question. So actually at the time I was working in the financial industry and then I just had this like real want to like live in New York and I wanted to work in the financial industry. And so I thought like it was really hard at the time actually. It was right after the financial crisis, so not the best time to pick up and quit your job and move overseas, but I just like was itching to do it, so I just did it. And because in as an Australian, like it's so hard to get like a visa. You need a job before the visa, and there was no jobs out available. So I just thought, because Australia is part of the Commonwealth, it was easy for me to get a working holiday visa. I was young at the time. I could just easily go to Canada. And I thought if I pick Toronto, then I can fly over to New York and get like job interviews and stuff like that. So, but then eventually I was like, oh, I don't know even if I really want that. So I stayed in Toronto. I met my husband. But something like I was still like, I actually realized I didn't want to be in the financial industry. I just completely hated it. And it wasn't until my husband was like, you love photography. Why don't you do photography? And I think it was that realization that even if I look back to my high school, like when I was thinking about what I wanted to do in university, I actually wanted to be a web designer at the time. But my parents were like, why do you want to do that? That's like not very stable. Like, why don't you just be like an accountant or IT or like, something more like in the lines of what like, Asian people do. Yeah, like the typical career and what everyone else is doing. And, I had no idea. So I just followed what they said. So I think I really like suppressed like my creative side, which is like really big part of who I am. And so when I started dabbling in photography, I just realized, oh my gosh, this is me. Like this is like what I've meant to do. So I like hustled and did that as a side gig for a while, and then I moved into that full time when business was really good. And I just thought, oh, this is exactly what I was going to do. I love making people happy. It brought me so much satisfaction and joy to give something so special to people. Like people treasured my work so much. And then it really became my life. Like I loved it so much that it became my life. And I thought that if I quit the financial industry, I move into wedding photography, I could be my own boss. I could like work the hours I want. Instead, I like let it take over my entire life. And I was working all the time. And even when I had my daughter, in 2019, I couldn't even take like time to be with her because I was just like had so many bookings, and I just like I had just this like commitment to it that I couldn't really step away from. And it wasn't until the pandemic that like I lost all my contracts because like people were like canceling, postponing, like downsizing like crazy. I lost so much business for those 2 years during that time. And it actually was like a blessing in disguise because I was like thinking of like, this conundrum with like battling my identity as a new mom as well as like managing my workload. And I was just like, well, who am I now? Like, how do I manage all of this? And what do I do? Like, I can't imagine doing weddings for my whole future because as she grows up, she'll be in school, she'll want to go to dance class or, hang out with her friend. Like, I can't even take her to that because I'm always working evenings and weekends. And so there was this like, I don't know what to do with myself, especially when the pandemic hit, when it was like stripped away from me. And so I really was just like hanging out with her. I took the time to just like really hang out with her. She was only about 1 at the time. And we were at home during the pandemic for so long, during the lockdown. I was just thinking, well, if we can't play with people, I hope that I can find like maybe a doll that she could play with, so she doesn't feel so lonely. And I was just looking out online, and I was just like struck by like how little options there were, and there was how stereotypical the options were. And like she was around 1 year old, and I was like planning her 1 year old birthday, and I was like, I'm so excited for her to put it on her like a Chinese outfit, and also my husband's Korean, so we were thinking about putting her in her Korean outfit. And so I was just like thinking, well, we celebrate like our cultures through our children. Why can't she see herself reflected in her dolls? And so that's really where the idea came about, especially, during the pandemic with the rise in anti-Asian hate. I was just had this real like desire for her to really feel proud of who she is and where she comes from, and really celebrate like her heritage, like really thinking back about my own childhood and how I felt ashamed to be Asian. And like I remember thinking my classmates are so lucky to be born with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they're so pretty, but I'm not. I could never be like a princess. I could never be like a, famous person, those sorts of thoughts. And I just really wanted her to feel represented and feel that she could be whoever she wants to be and that she's really valued. Yeah. Sorry, that was a long story.
No, thanks for sharing that. So I've said this before in previous episodes, but it just I'm just like in awe of like
Yeah.
the moms after becoming a mom, and you see the needs of like how the future or how you want your kids to see themselves in the society. Then you created something from scratch. Just like I think it's amazing, right? Like especially what you've done in the past, like not really directly connected to what you're doing now, but then just because they know like out of love, and you created this. This is just it's amazing. And
It is.
Thank
I'm
yeah,
so touched too by your story because it is so true. And I even show my daughter's 11 now. I show, say, look at this lady created. Look, she doesn't really play dolls anymore. She's, oh my God, mommy, I love it. Because when she was, I would say 7 or 8, they all have this face. They love Disney princess, like Belle, Cinderella. Like she was into that for a while when she was little. And then she asked me really innocent questions. She's like, Mommy, how come all the princess I love, they all have yellow hair, blue eyes? And I was like, I know. And the only one I can find is Mulan, right? Or like, I don't know, Pocahontas. Now, I know recent years there's more
Yes.
princess, like Wish. There's like different princess.
Yes.
But like the classic princess, they're all with blue eyes and yellow hair. So yeah, I love what you're doing, representing like the Asian
Yeah,
part of
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I really wanted her to be able to look at herself and think that, yeah, she's valued in society. I always thought that I couldn't be of like a high leadership position or like, yeah, princess. Like that's something that people, like children, really treasure. And so that's was really my goal, that I hope that, especially with all the hate during the pandemic, that I really wanted to like spread just joy. And that's what I was so happy with doing while I was doing wedding photography. Was my whole goal was to just like spread joy and happiness, and that was just so fulfilling for me. And so I really hope that through these dolls that I could do that, and that's why I made them with all like really happy faces, so that kids can identify with that joy and feel inspired by. And even when my daughter, she couldn't talk at the time, and she would see me like creating it on my computer, and she would point to it and she would just giggle. And I thought like, oh, I'm on the right track. If she's pointing at just like a mock-up of it and just giggling and laughing, then if I can create that type of reaction, then yeah, I feel like I'm on the right track.
that's awesome. So how many Joeydolls do you have now? And I just assume that your daughter plays with them, right? Like, which ones are her favorites? And just like share some stories of her like your daughter's interaction with the dolls that you created.
Yeah, so initially I wanted to do more, and well, right now I have 6, and I hope that we can do more in the future. And the reason why I really wanted to do 6 at least was to really just show that diversity within the Asian community.
Can you share? Can you share with us which 6?
Oh, yes, yes. So I have Chinese, Filipina, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, and Indian.
Oh,
And yeah, that was important for me to do, to like really, because at the time when I was starting out, like a lot of people were saying, especially in the toy industry, was saying like, maybe you should just start with 1 doll, or maybe do 2 or 3. Like, don't do 6. Like, that's just too many. Especially me just starting out, not knowing anything, and investment involved, all of this. But I really, really wanted to do at least 6, just to, because when you see the 6 together, you can really just see how beautiful and how diverse the Asian community is. And so yeah, I really wanted to make that statement. And my girls, I like they love them. They always ask like which ones are which, because sometimes they do get confused. And I think it's a really good conversation piece that you can have with them. Like it's easy, you can talk about it, you can even play with them, like role model certain things, especially like during Lunar New Year. They were bringing I had like the Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean doll. They were playing with all three of them. And even though I'm not from like a Vietnamese background, but like they love playing with all those three dolls during Lunar New Year, and they were feeding the dolls. And and with the Korean doll, actually, my oldest daughter, she recognized, because the Korean doll's wearing the hanbok, and the hanbok is actually inspired from my daughter's hanbok. And so when my oldest daughter saw it, her name's Joey, she recognized that my youngest daughter, Jasmine, was wearing it. And she's like, that looks like Jasmine. And then later on, she said, she's a princess. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was able to like really come like full circle with this, like how I mentioned, like I couldn't see myself as a princess. And like for them to be able to connect these things, like, oh, this doll is so special, she's so special, and she's Korean, she's wearing this hanbok, and she's a princess. Like that really is what this is all about, like changing that narrative for children. And also when I ask them, like they love the Korean doll, but also when I ask them which is their favorite, interestingly, they love like the Kamala doll, which is the Indian doll, and the Malaya doll, which is the Filipina doll. And I thought that's so interesting because I also, with the 6 dolls, it was important for me to showcase the different skin tones. And the Filipina and the Indian doll are the darker skin tones. And I was just so amazed that they naturally, like I never pushed anything to them. I just put them out there, let it play, and they always grab those two. And I just think like that's such a narrative shift for young children, for our society, to value people of color, and like especially in the Asian community, like for so long, even today, like even when I was pregnant, I was told like, I hope your daughters are born with your husband's fair Korean skin, like all these things. Like it's so prevalent and not really talked about, that whiter is better and all this. So there was so many things that I wanted to be able to teach, like not just our community and our children, but also like the entire world, like what I was seeing during the pandemic with all the hate, and also lumping everyone that looked remotely Asian as Chinese, right? So that's what I really want the dolls to not just be. Of course, I want them to be played by children, but I hope they'll be able to provide more education and awareness about our culture and the rich tapestry of our cultures.
Yeah. I have something to share too. I resonate so much. It's touched my heart so deep because growing up in Taiwan, I grew up from Taiwan. I left when I was 14, so still pretty rooted. Like there's a saying called 一白遮三丑, means if you're pale skin, you're white, then it means you're pretty, right? So same way when I was pregnant, people like don't eat any soy sauce or like tea because your daughter will have dark skin.
Right.
So I avoided all that. My daughter's still born like kind of tan, right? So every time when we go back to Taiwan, and she's so puzzled too, because people will be like, "Oh, you're very tan." Like she's like, "Mommy, why do they say that? What's wrong with being tan?" And I was like,
Yeah.
culture thing, they like to have you have to fair skin. So what you said really resonated with me, and it really touched my heart that your children playing with Joeydolls and they don't see color and they actually pick the darkest skin, and that any color can be beautiful.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I hope for the future, that we can really, fundamentally from such an early age, that I didn't realize how perceptive that children are. And often people think, oh, we can talk about race and colorism and all these things when they're older, when they can understand. But actually, they understand so much at such an early age. And I was so struck by when I was doing the research that babies around like 8 to 10 months old can actually notice these subtle differences, that they actually recognize racial differences. So not in a way that, of course, that they can talk about, but they see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say, I think, yeah, like what you just say, piggyback right on that is I think they see colors, but they don't have the other they don't have a judgment, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
our
Mm-hmm.
like the perception of, the stereotypes, or like you said, the lumping,
Mm-hmm.
like, categorize, like, okay, I see colors, we're different, but we're the same at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because so one of incident, like not really relevant to this, but so my son, he was born in 2019 as well. So our oldest are the same age. So he loved to play with little people, like the little
Mm-hmm.
figures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this police, he's dressed in black, right? Like black. And then he was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he was just like, black person, black person. And then he used to love like carrying that police around place to playgrounds. And then it was like, oh, don't say that. Just, like we live in America. And then just like, and there's nothing wrong with that, because for him, like he said, pink person too. When a person like dressing pink, he said pink person. That's
Right.
just how we differentiate those people. But it's like, but I had to, like, the fact that I had to talk to him about not to say it, and then the more we talk about it, he was like, why? He's black, like he's in black. Like, what's wrong with it? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, no, there's nothing wrong with it, the language itself, but is the added, like how the society
Mm-hmm.
view it, right?
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
we are all different colors, and we all have different backgrounds, different values, different beliefs. And in an
Mm-hmm.
ideal world, it should be okay. We should be accepted and be seen as who we are, but
Yes.
doesn't mean we should be judged based on how we
Right.
look. So
Yeah.
he was 3 at the time. And just the fact I had to have this, like, we didn't go into like racism, anything like that too deep, because obviously he wouldn't understand. I'm just like, well, people don't like that. And then I think like down the road we can have a conversation, but just like, well, he's a police. Why don't we call him police? Or can we name him? Right? Like, can you name him
Mm-hmm.
something? And I think that's like ongoing conversation too as it grows older. But I think what you mentioned was, and I love how holistic the dolls are, right? When people think of Asian, yeah, most people say Chinese,
Yeah.
yellow, and skin tone, right? But I'm like, actually, there are like different types of Asians, and I
Yes.
love the fact that you are so so inclusive, so holistic, and the fact that you're intentionally introducing these dolls to your daughters, or even just people who play with them, right? Your customers, but you're not up to their face and telling them this is the script you should follow, right? Like, no, like you get to play with them, and that's like the best way of learning too. And
Right.
they can relate, and then they could, from deep down, they can be comfortable and confident of who they are. And I think that is really, really powerful. The fact they can see themselves as princesses, they can identify themselves and find it relatable. And I think that's just like beyond all the teaching, all the talking, all the instructing, just because that is really powerful. And then like what Yao Yao said, it's yeah, it gives me goosebumps. Like
Right?
hearing.
Because I mean, growing up in Taiwan, like you said, Samantha, I never see myself as princess. And even I moved to America, the beauty standard is the blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I never see myself like, oh, can ever be like Disney princess, anything like that. And for your daughter to say that, it's just it really hit home. And what you said earlier, Trista, I just flashback. My kid did the same thing because they never say like blonde. They say yellow hair, black hair, right? And then they'll just say it flat out, or yellow. They don't say yellow skin, but they're like, especially my daughter, she's very detailed. She's like, oh, black skin, and this person's a little tanner, and this is like kind of So she'll describe exact what it is, like a
Mm-hmm.
skin tone, but not. I think adult we put a meaning to it. So
Mm-hmm.
they're like, why? Why does that? Like you said, just like Leo said, like, why does that? Is it true? Why does that bad? Why can't I say that? Right? It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
And that's exactly what you're saying. Like, it's really up to us to be able to educate them at such an early age and set that, like, standard or like that narrative about like what is valued, what is wrong or right. We teach them what is wrong and right with like other things, but we don't really talk about like all these nuances about like different groups of people and how we should treat. But we can teach children that we treat everyone the same, that everyone's valued, that everyone is special, no matter how they look like or where they come from, then, they'll learn that. Like all of this is taught at some point in time. Like no one just wakes up in the morning and goes, this group of people, is not as valid. Like this is all taught in our society, like very, it's like subtly, but like through media, through like what we play with, and when with the dolls, I'm able to use like role playing with them, so it is like really fun way for her to learn. So sometimes she has like a bad day at school, or she doesn't know how to like stand up for herself, and I can tell her what to say, but when we like role play it through our dolls, then she can practice like saying those things, and she can actually like learn like how to say it or how to like act in certain scenarios. And sometimes we do use we talk about there's like, especially with the different dolls that look like different, and so it's such a good learning tool. And especially with all the dolls that I provide like a free downloadable that you can learn about the different cultures and the traditions. I hope that we can expand on that more, and hopefully we'll be able to like tie everything together, but one step at a time. But I just hope that this education is so important at such a young age.
And something to add to is I love your approach, and I'm still working with my son, just in general, advocating for themselves. Like he does, like not even just in terms of race, right? Just like self-advocating, such a like good skill. And the fact that your daughters are taught since they're little that they are confident of who they are, right? They are proud of who they are. And then that, because we as parents, we want to protect our children, right? But there's no way we can shield them from every bad things, or there are gonna be people who judge them based on how they look like, right? I think, but then like, so at first I was terrified, I was freaking out about that. But I think like if they can be comfortable and confident in who they are proud of themselves, and then we are providing them with the skills and strategy of how to self-advocate for themselves. And I think they can stand up for themselves. And that is why that's my goal. And then I think I see from these dolls, I think that's what you're doing with the role playing and everything, is you are giving them the life skill of how to stand up for themselves. Not even just racism or anything, just like in life in general.
Every day. Yeah.
Obstacles. And it just, wow, it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, my daughter's teacher was so surprised. When I went for a parent teacher interview, she's like, I was so like impressed by your daughter being able to like advocate for herself and defend herself. Like she tells kids like, no, I don't like that. Don't touch me.
I love it.
Yeah. And those are the kind of things that I wish I was taught when I was younger, because I think especially growing up in an Asian household, we're taught like, don't say anything, like keep quiet, say sorry, like, be more what we call like respectful, or that kind of behavior. Avoid conflict. Yes, don't. Yeah. So
me all the way.
Don't ask questions. Yeah, that's me, and this is the things that I'm also unlearning and teaching myself, and I'm trying to teach to my children so that they have these tools to be able to stand up for themselves and know their own worth. Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you guys still live in Toronto?
Yes, yeah, we do. Yeah. So,
okay, so just sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So out of curiosity, because Toronto is a very diverse city. I know nothing about Toronto. So I kind of want to know, like, how does it feel like raising kids there, and then the diversity, it's more, how accepting is it? Or
Mm,
it still feel pretty divided? But
mhm.
obviously it's a very personal and subjective question too, but I just want to hear more about your experience.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I would say Canada is a very like progressive country, and Toronto itself is incredibly multicultural. There's a lot of Asians in Toronto. Um, I will say, like growing up in Australia, because I'm from Malaysia, I there was a bigger community of I think Southeast Asian. There are a lot of like Southeast Asians in Canada, but it was difficult for me to find like other Malaysian people. Um, there's a lot of I think like more East Asian, and there are like big communities of Asian people, and also of course other diverse ethnicities. Uh, where I live in Toronto, I live in like the beaches area, so like downtown, but close to the beach. And this area, interestingly, is very like not as diverse. And I would say because a lot of people like moved here and then haven't moved out of the neighborhood, and it's difficult to move into the neighborhood. There's not much supply and like very old houses, so that's why it hasn't really changed much. And so when she goes to school, I almost see this kind of uh like seeing myself going to school again, because I see like she's not like one of the only Asian girls in her like in her class, and I notice that sometimes even the Asian like kids like group together, and I notice that they see this differently. They don't really understand it yet. So although Toronto itself is very diverse, in my neighborhood itself is not that diverse. So I experience like both worlds. Yeah. And so these are the things that although like if she was in a different neighborhood, she might not experience, but she will experience in like in this neighborhood. So this is why it's so important to me to be able to teach her these things that I wish I was taught when I was growing up. That I for too long I was ashamed of who I was, or like how I looked like, and I want her to really truly believe that she is beautiful, that she is so special. She can do whatever she wants, if she wants to. And yeah, I just don't want to recreate the kind of experiences. I'm sure like when you were a mom that you sort of relive your childhood again.
Yeah. I think three of us, we all have daughters, so
Mm-hmm.
that's what we want to raise them. And then we experience kind of the same thing, that phase, that awkward phase growing up, that kind of ashamed of our identity
Mm-hmm.
because we don't have, I don't know, big eyes, big blue eyes and blonde hair. So kind of, we don't want that for our daughters, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I guess, so would you say in your neighborhood is majority dominantly white community, or?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and even like during the pandemic, I was even afraid to just like step out of the house because I was like one of the only Asian people like walking around. And I even remember when I moved into the neighborhood, I was with my daughter, and someone actually asked me like, "Oh, are you the nanny?" And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't believe this sort of like perception is still like ongoing that if I'm Asian, even with my daughter, like I hope that she looks like me, that, um, yeah, I'm just like assume that I'm the nanny in the neighborhood. So, um, yeah. And during the pandemic, when I walked out, I just hope that like, I just, I could always feel like I'm the other person, right? That I don't look like everyone. I don't blend in. And, yeah, so,
Do you still feel that way after all these years?
I think it's like unlearning, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like unlearning that I am like I'm just like everyone else, but also like to be proud of it.
Yeah.
And even during Lunar New Year, I had the opportunity to go into the classroom and talk about Lunar New Year to the class. So it was really nice because all the kids were really interested.
Did you show your doll? Did you bring your
I brought them in. I brought a book about Lunar New Year, and so they could talk about each of the different like cultures that celebrate Lunar New Year, like how different they are. Like not just Chinese people celebrate it, all different cultures celebrate it, and they could see like the different dresses. Where like the Vietnamese doll was wearing the out dye, and then the Chinese doll was wearing the cheong sam and the chi pa, and the Korean doll was wearing the hanbok. So they could like visually see that the many people that celebrated and the different foods that were eaten during that time, and the traditions. So they were also interested. I was so happy that I was able to share that. But I think probably in the past I would be, I don't know if people would be interested, and not feel confident enough to be able to share that with everyone and proudly to do it. Yeah.
Right. So like when you share that you feel like don't belong, or just like the fact that you look different from
Mm-hmm.
like the majority of the population from a community, have you always felt this way even back in Australia, or is your current neighborhood in Toronto even more apparent?
I think so, especially like growing up. I was one of the only Asian people in the class, so you kind of know that you're like different. Um, and I always saw like all the blonde people, like white blonde kids play together, and even like when I came into high school, I was like, oh, that guy's cute, but that he only likes the girl that looks like the pretty one. So you come into like have these perceptions about yourself that, oh, I don't deserve certain things, or I'm not as pretty or special enough to deserve these things, and I'm just that other person that's supposed to, especially if you don't see yourself like in the media and like leadership positions of people that like are valued like in society. So you just assume that, oh, I'm just supposed to be on the sidelines. And that's kind of why I think even when after high school, when I was told, you should just be these careers, I'm like, oh, okay, well, those careers are, I guess,
You kind of
I
play
won't.
small in that way.
Exactly. You play small. You're supposed to be on the sidelines. You just play what people tell you to do, or what you're taught that you're supposed to do, but not really like listening to yourself and what you want to do or know your worth, that you could do so much more. And I never thought that I could have my own business or like push the barriers. Um, I I do hope that I am able to create like positive change, and I don't think that I was able, like back then I was taught that me as an individual could be able to affect like so many people's lives and create that positive change. Like I just thought, like you said, like play small, like I just live in my own little world, like go to work and come home. I didn't think that I could just break out of that mold and do like something different.
Yeah. I think when you say like in the media, right, Hollywood or at least pop
Mm-hmm.
culture, right, there are not a lot of Asian figures, and then even there were, I don't really watch enough movies and TVs to say this, but I feel like the ones I've noticed are like you say, silence, right, the background, or like
Mm-hmm.
secondary roles,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So then that I feel like that it almost does more damage than no representation at all, because when you see people who look like you, right, like the same race, and then the way they're being portrayed, then it's natural, and that we absorb that in, or we kind of relate ourselves to those roles, and we downplay ourselves, or we just consider us a lesser.
Mm-hmm.
But one good thing is I think that is changing,
Yeah.
slow but steady.
No.
So I think that's a good news. But I think overall, yeah. So I'm feeling hopeful about it. But I think what we are doing and what you're doing, like you say, you're impacting others and bring positive impact. You definitely are doing it. And you're doing such a great job because just by hearing your story and then the idea of how Joeydolls were created, it's so touching and it's so empowering and
Oh,
inspiring.
thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been like a long journey and, it's been really tough, like I was sharing.
Yeah, I can't believe you did all this by yourself.
Yeah, I did it by
I can't
myself.
imagine like
Yeah, I had no
designing it.
idea.
Yeah, finding the manufacturer, and I I have little business background, so I know it's really tough just doing everything on your own and in such a short time too.
Yeah, I mean, it feels long, but it has been like like in the grand scheme of things, pretty short. I tried to do it as much as I could in like the hours after they go to bed. Like especially for a long time, my children wasn't in daycare. They were at home with me, so I tried to be as present as possible with them, and like being able to. I was not so much time to be able to work on this, and not knowing like who to reach out to or like what to do next. So a lot of it was just like testing and seeing if this works, or and just like figuring it out on my own. I didn't really know anyone, and so had no idea what I'm doing. Even to this day, I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I try to do the best that I can, and like I just I really hope that people know that, especially through my story, that feel inspired that they too, if they're a mom, if they want to do something, they could do
Oh
it
yeah.
too.
Yes.
Because I really had no clue. During the pandemic, I lost like all my income basically. So I really just started from like such a shoestring budget
Yeah.
that and just like built it from there.
That's what me
Yeah.
and Trista always talk about. I mean, what you're doing is courage and bravery, right? You just do it like one step at a time. You do it messy. Same with me and Trista. We just like, hey, let's start a podcast. Let's start this. And just let's just do it, right? And do it messy, and hopefully we can make impact, even just 1% at a time. And
Yeah.
And we
you're
met
yeah.
so many amazing people, just like you're one of them. Just like it's very inspiring. And me and Yaya, we truly enjoy podcasts like this to bring us together, even though we're like all over the world, right? Different parts of the world. But then just the fact that out of love, and then that we want to share our roots, our culture, and our pride, or pass it on to our children. It is it's significant, right? And it's budding, like slowly like growing. But I think it just every time when I get to be on podcasts like this and then talking to people that they're doing amazing, wonderful things, it just
She's smiling. She's
yeah.
smiling. Right?
Yeah, like I said, it's been such a long journey, and so many times I wanted to give up. But when I'm able to hear like the feedback like this, especially when I see like I get photos from people, or just even them sharing, like some people
So
said that they've been in tears, like just seeing the doll. We recently like got our dolls into shelves, and that was like a big goal of mine, to be able
where?
to get them onto like so there's just various like small specialty retailers. I love supporting small business, because me being a small business, and being able to like feel this community together. And a lot of these stores aren't owned by Asian owners, and so for them to see the value in this and celebrating this diversity is like such a big milestone. Like it's so great to hear that
Yeah.
people are valuing this diversity. And excuse me. And for children, like I had a mom who saw the dolls in the store, and she said, I'm so glad that my children will be able to see this, like the set of dolls, like what a narrative shift it is for her to see, like feel accepted and see these different cultures on the shelves. And then I had a dolls on a shelf in Toronto, and the owner told me that a lady was walking by, saw them in the store, and she just cried.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we have so many stories like that, and I just know that
even adults are touched. We didn't have that when we were younger. I
exactly.
mean, all we see is a bunch of Barbie dolls with really, really skinny legs and pretty blonde hair. And well, we don't see that when we were growing. Now we're seeing it, of course, more and more. So
Yeah, and it's actually crazy to me to think like even in places in Asia, like you growing up in Taiwan,
yeah,
that
I
these are
don't
the
live in.
dolls. Yeah, that even in Asia where it's all Asian
Yeah.
people, that there's still blonde or like white
Oh yeah.
looking doll, Caucasian dolls, and that's just like crazy to me to think that, even to this day.
Yes.
And yeah, I get so many stories like this. It it makes my work worthwhile, that all that
So
work.
keep on going. Yeah, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, and it motivates me to keep going. Exactly.
Thank you so
Hmm.
much. You're so inspiring. Yeah, I feel like you're encouraging kids through the doll. You're actually encouraging adults like me and like Trista or moms like us, like making impact and pursue your dream. Yes, and it is possible. Can you tell us where we can find you and find Joey Doll? I'm sure lots of listeners want to know and be inspired by it.
Yeah, so you can jump on our website. It's just joeydolls.com. So JOEYDOLLS.com. And then even on Instagram, Facebook, or on TikTok, we're all just under Joey Dolls. So you can find us easily there. I think we're on YouTube, but we're still building that out.
Yeah.
But mainly Instagram and Facebook right now.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. There's anything you want that I didn't ask you want to share?
I think we covered a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so inspiring.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me and sharing our story. I hope
Mm,
that we're able to reach more people. And yeah, I just hope that, yeah, my whole goal is to make a positive impact on everyone and bring joy. So I hope I can continue that.
you will. You are
Yeah.
already making impact.
And then I hope that we can actually do a Taiwanese doll soon. So we actually have
Oh,
upcoming dolls that we want to do. So recently, I put out a poll, and our followers, and like our community, like our subscribers,
yeah.
were able to vote. So the next one will be a Cambodian doll, but we do have Taiwanese in the list there.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Cambodian is the next goal. Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So you usually do a survey and
Yes.
see what
What
Cambodian. So
people.
what's after Cambodian? Do you have idea?
Yeah. So the next one after that was voted, I believe it was Vietnamese boy. So we're going to do boy dolls.
Oh, boys.
Yeah. So that's
So it's
something
gonna be
that
a first boy?
first boy. Yes. Yeah. And that's something that I think that really is needed, that we don't
Yes.
see boy dolls, that boys do need dolls too. I know we talked a lot about our experience as girls, but boys do also need to feel valued. And also, we want to break this like gender role as well. Like what
Yeah.
society teaches us about gender is that, oh, boys play with trucks and
Yes.
boys don't
Don't
play.
cry.
Yeah, exactly. And sure, like of course, if they like trucks, sure.
Yeah.
But I want to break the mold in that that strictly they need to play with trucks. Like if they don't want to play with trucks, sure, then
Yeah.
and they want to play with dolls, then sure, then we will have one for them. So that would be our next goal. And then after that, I believe is Filipino and Chinese boys. So and then after that, I might do another poll again. Yeah.
That's awesome. I can't wait. I'm so excited for the future and like witness what's coming for you and for
Oh,
Joy
thank
Doll.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, would you please share with a friend so we can grow this community together, help each other grow? And also make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you get the latest news. We will have a new guest every Tuesday. A quick way to encourage us to keep on going is to leave a review. We will appreciate your review and it will take only a minute of your time. And make sure you follow us on social media. You can find us at Mandarin Together Now on Facebook and Instagram. See you next time. Bye.